can be seen here in this room. And regarding the gender issues in this workshop, I see that the Jeju's women outbid the number of the men here, and perhaps that's the power to make the Jeju's very famous. Now let me come with my mainstream ecosystem services into planning and policies in Vietnam presentation. Okay, there are 4 items in this report, but actually, I go very fast because the chairman gave me only 10 minutes, and I got spent 1 minute for the women here in Jeju already. The projects on ecosystem services in Vietnam to assess the ecosystem service within the wetland ecosystem and many other ecosystems in order to streamlines and integrate their services from their functions into the national policies, which implemented by the Institute of Strategies and Policy on Natural Resources and Environmental Exploration of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment in Vietnam, which carried out for about 4 years. The major objectives and the aim of the project is to integrate or mainstream the ecosystem services into the policy, developments, and as well as the investment planning. Piloting this integration on the provincial levels, and that's one of the things that we're trying to carry out prior to having the national policies developed. And trying to develop kind of tools or decision support models on the multi-scales. And this is a project size in here. Down south in the we call Canal Peninsulas, that's our we have the components of quantification of the ecosystems. We evaluate the ecosystem services, and within the ecosystem services with development. Here is the side, which is we zoom in here. This is a very tip of the peninsulas, which is dominated by the mangroves, different kinds of mangroves, including Rhizopora, Avicennia, and Acacia, especially the Cineraria, which grow in the brackish waters. And here's a sample of the products that we got there, including streams and many kinds of streams, and 2 main activities for income or of the local peoples, aquaculture and fishing practices. We identified the main target of ecosystem services, including regulation services for carbon sequestration and coastal protection, especially if you experience with typhoon or tsunami, you know how important the mangroves in the coastal areas is. And secondly, as I mentioned earlier, that the people living heavily depends on the aquaculture and fishery products. So the provision service is very important for the local people. And of course, the cultural services also provided there in the areas, especially for tourism and also the traditional festivals like boats festival, boating festival, and so on and so forth. This is some figures of the, sorry for the English mistakes here, but this is the year of the streams in different districts of the provinces that come out by different years. You can see the fluctuation changes here. And here is also a sort of the movement of changing in the mangroves cover of the areas by different times. and it shows that the mangroves are being degraded in both the quantity and the quality. The reason why those services and also the status of the mangroves ecosystems degraded is come from several driver pressures in the area, including from the humans. In terms of the population pressures, we have a population growth very high, and I don't know about the population the current population in Jeju, and told about 600,000, but some figures show about 1 million people. But there, in the province, they have more than 2 million people, province alone. And for the whole country, we have 87 million people now. And also the driver from the economic development activities. Of course, and also the policy and from the natural, like the climate change and also extreme events and so on and so forth. It called pressures on the conservation or conversion to other land use, especially shifting from the forestry to the aquaculture, especially development of the stream farming, as well as the over-extractions of the natural resources by different means, including the exotics and destructive exploitation means, and also from the environment pollutions. We have a natural disaster, including storm, wave, flooding, and sea level rise. And it goes to the step and trends of losing of the mangroves and degradation of the mangrove forest, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of both quantity and quality. And it also affects the coastal erosions. We have a serious coastal erosions in the areas, and for many reasons, people try to use different tools and different methods to prevent the erosion from the coastal from erosions, but still, facing a lot of difficulties. So here's the step and the impact on the ecosystem services. That's when you got the mangrove forest, degradation of the mangrove forest, you lost in biodiversity, in biomass, in ecosystem function and services. That led to the coastal erosion of circulation change because of the delta forming or building from the sediments transported downstream from the Mekong River. And also the physical damage to trees and submersion and so on and so forth, which impact on the timber, the fuel nodes, and natural resources, especially on agriculture and aquaculture products. The degradations of the habitat for species, especially the breeding ground and feeding grounds, and also on the coastal protection, microclimate, groundwater storage, water purification, and especially the carbon sequestration and storage. And of course, with impact on the beauty of the landscape. Now, what would be impacts on the ecosystem service when benefit to the human well-being? Okay, so impact on the household incomes and subsistence, on the profits, on the human security and health, on the provision of clean water for household and agricultural use, carbon offsets, biodiversity, leisure tourism, and so on and so forth. And the stakeholder or beneficiaries which would be benefit from these services, including the farmers, provincial authority, a local community, and of course it goes to the global community as well as many others stakeholders related. And we have also focused on the potential issues in land use, conservation and climate change adaptation planning, and the cost the mangroves area, strict regulations, and others policy and regulation which related to the protections and restoration of the mangroves ecosystems, including ecosystem-based adaptation. Here's a number of things, but because of the limitation of the times, it doesn't speak it. So how to mainstream ecosystem service into decision making? From an ecosystem here with numbers of biophysical models, we have the services, we have the values, and then some sort of institutional incentives here and immediate season. And of course, this circle will be repeated after periods of times. And we have also set out 6-step approach to integrate ecosystem services into development planning, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here, which is available on the PPT. If any of you are interested in, you can download from those. What efforts have been made to mainstream the ecosystem service in the national policy framework? Here's some of the things that we've done based on what we have made, including the biodiversity law, which passed by the National Congress or Assembly in 2008, and the national strategy on green growth to be submitted to the National Assembly to pass, and also the national strategy on environmental protection, just approved by the Prime Minister. And also some other more details about the national strategy on environmental protection is seen here. What's the key point for the successful in integrating of India's development policy? We've got to identify the key stakeholders. We've got to entry point for mainstreaming and support tools for decision making by having such important stakeholders here. The PPC here, the People's Committee, which may be different, slightly different from Jeju and Korea, I say that they go to the communist levels. But one of the things here I would mention outside of this presentation is that there is very little involvement of the household or the local people to participate in the process of this. I think that's it. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.
Mr. Norman, thanks for your presentation. It's very, very important to hear from you that the importance of stakeholders and the entry point of decision making and supporting tools for those entry points are some critical issues that you have reflected in your presentation. Let me now give the floor to Ms. Sonia Salas, the project manager of Ecosystem Chile and the professor in Center for Advanced Research in Arid Zones, Chile. She will make a presentation on indigenous knowledge and its role in local development planning, the experience of Ecosystem project in San Pedro de Atacama. Dr. Salas has been acting as a national manager of several international projects dealing with sustainable development, vulnerable and social impacts of environmental problems, and women. As a professor in the area of socioclinical psychology, she teaches and directs seminars and workshops on social issues, and she served as the vice president of the Chilean Association of Psychology. Yes, Mr. Salas. I would like to ask you again two main questions. What is the indigenous knowledge? Why the indigenous knowledge is important in San Pedro de Atacama in Chile? And what is your strategy to include this information into the local decision-making process? You have 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to say only hello because our coordinator says 10 minutes and 10 minutes, 10 minutes. First of all, I'm going to talk about a place we are working, which is San Pedro de Atacama, Comuna, which is a part of the Lignantine traditional territory. And this territory is one of the 9 Chilean original Andean people. The Lignantine are a group of people with an Andean cultural matrix. The Andean people developed a very complex strategies, including domestication of species. You can see those. They are after a long period of crossing several species in order to use the wool and the meat they provide. So originally they were naked and they were some other species. And also the selection of corn species you can see on the left, which was the primitive corn species and how they move into the actual corn in a cob. Curiously, tourists that are coming to San Pedro Atacama are now asking for the original corn instead of the new one. So that is life. I don't know how to work it. The Lignantine conformed the territory in the driest desert of the world. This is a fact, but through different strategies. First of all, they are very knowledgeable in water management using a channel system and water distribution, as you could see there. Also, an extensive and transhuman use of ecosystem using the logic of vertical archipelago. In that sense, the owner of the culture, they set up a center of power and they distributed rapidly across all over the area different settlements in order to the use of the name vertical archipelago, setting center of power in one side, but distribution many communities across the area on the territory for using it much more functional the resources. So whenever they were in the upper part of the Andes, they were settlement of people and they used the logic of interchanging the products in order to be much more productive. You have to discount because of the technological process. And also the development of farming technology that optimize the irrigation and soil quality, and some example of the cultivation of terrace you would see there. And which is important in that area is that the upper part of the terrace where the Lignantine people settled up the crops that were more resistant to the wind and the other, they were much more strong. In the lower part of the terrace, they set up the more vulnerable species, so they were very functional also in the way they were. According to the historical process, the pre-Hispanic time Lignantine people was first inserted in the orbit of the Tiahuanaco culture and then in the Tahuayan Suyo. After the Spanish invasion in the 16th century, the colonial order included the viceroyalty of Peru. And after independence from Spain, became part of the emergent national state of Bolivia. After the Pacific War, the region is attached to the national state. The Lignantine people today, we would say that the traditional agricultural activity have lost a central role compared to mining and tourism, which are presented as the main economic activity today. Different productive activities compete with scarce resources, which is mainly water, which is really scarce. This situation generates a series of conflict between local actors, the institution and enterprises, national and transnational. And the new institution, which is expressed in the Chilean indigenous law and the ratification of ILO Convention in 2008 during the Bachelet regime, establishes a new relationship between the Chilean state and indigenous people. The indigenous people on the Delicate Pipe has a very thorough knowledge of this ecosystem, including water dynamics, medicinal properties of local plants, climatic cycles, and so on. And also has a number of technologies to which make use of ecosystem service, also known ecological dynamic of tourist sites and scientific. Ecosystem and cosmovision. For the people and little and its ecosystem is directly linked to their worldview, whose core is the principle of reciprocity and complementary with the Pachamama, the Mother Earth. This sort of interchanging is very closely related with the women role. Thus, there is an attire of ecological cultural meaning integrated into a series of ritual and sacred practices, or the ceremonies and festivities astralature associated with soil, fertility, and water. The projects are projects which aim to develop tools for the evaluation of ecosystem service in the territory, attempt to strengthen the link between research